You're listening to the Real Estate Runway podcast, powered by QUATTRO Capital, where we are all about alternative business and investment strategies to help you amplify life and maximize wealth. Here's your host, the recovering engineer turned multifamily investor, Chad Sutton.
All right, Real Estate Runway family. Today, we're going to have my friend Dani with Simply Do It Real Estate on the call today. This guy is going to focus on, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about his 2008 history, his take on where we are now, how he built his portfolio, and now the company he has called Simply Do It, where he teaches you and helps people navigate the perils that can be real estate investing when they're uneducated. So this guy is amazing. He came from Israel and actually did it for afar from a long time before doing it on our soil. So let's get right into the episode. And if you get any value out of the show, folks, the only way to share it with somebody else and make sure others see this is to hit the share button. Leave a 5-star review. Make sure it ranks on any platform that you're on. The only way is to interact with the show. So folks, pay it forward, and we so appreciate you for that. If you want to be on the show, hit us up at thequattroway.com/podcast to apply. We love having these conversations, and I love to have you on the show and add value to our listener base here. We are on all the social media, folks. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok at Real Estate Runway Podcast, or any other social media platform at Team Quattro Capital, one word, no special characters, or just visit us at thequattroway.com. And folks, we are always accepting new relationships for investors to see if we're right for you or if we might want to build a relationship and work together in the future. Check us out at thequattroway.com/invest. And now let's get on to your scheduled production. All right. Real Estate Runway family, welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Runway podcast. This is your captain speaking. Welcome to another episode where we are going to learn a tremendous amount and have a fantastic individual, Dani, here on the show today. So check it out. Dani, welcome to the show. How you doing, brother?
Hello, my friend. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been waiting for it for a long time. I'm really happy for the opportunity.
I'm glad to have you here, brother. And I'm so excited for what we're going to go into today because we have some experience on the line here. We have a good 2008 story. And then we're going to talk about how you can actually help the listeners here with your proven systems. So before we get into this, who are you, Dani? Tell me about your background, how you got into real estate, what brings you to present day. And then I'm sure after that, we'll probably dive into the 2008 story a little bit.
Absolutely. Gladly. So I don't know if you can detect, but I have a little bit of an accent.
Tiny bit, but so do I. It's okay.
It's not a Texan accent, unfortunately. It's a Middle Eastern accent. I'm originally from Israel, born and raised, grew up in Israel. Besides maybe 2 years doing a high school in the DC area, all my life were there. I spent 3 years in the Israeli Special Forces. Did my mandatory 3 years, but I loved every minute of it. Or I can't say I loved every minute of it, but I really enjoyed that service. My brothers for life are from there. The family, we call it ourselves, the real family. And after finishing my military 3-year service and getting through my engineering degree and starting to work for the Israeli high-tech company for the first and the second, I really started asking myself questions as a young 24, 25, 26-year-old. All right, what's going on here financially? Like, where am I heading here? Like, those more not existential questions, but more practical financial questions. And I really felt I am illiterate when it comes to real life finances. I have an engineering degree. I had my courses in economy, but in real life stuff, I feel illiterate. So I, first of all, acknowledge that to myself and acknowledge that I have no idea about all the things I'm already paying and receiving and benefits. And I'm putting myself on a journey for about 2 years to go. We're talking about 2000, 2001, maybe around those years. I'm already starting to get a nice salary from an Israeli high-tech company. So that's my first real good adult salary. Remember, military and school, that I'm already an older compared to the US person. And then those questions come and I start this journey of learning, teaching myself, going through reading and meeting with professionals and trying to get better education about real life finances. It's not even real estate just yet. Slowly leading me towards investing and asking myself what I'm going to do with the money that I'm saving and earning and so on. And I start investing in stocks and options because I don't know, that's like what everybody does, so to speak. and I'm not happy with the results. I'm not happy with the risk reward ratio here. And slowly I hear about someone who's buying US real estate. So picture this is 2001 or two, a young engineer, right? Starting his life. Google is a startup. Facebook, that is not around. WhatsApp is not around. Zillow is not around. Google Maps is not around. We use MapQuest at a time, right? No public records online. All that feels like the dark ages, right? It's only 20 years ago, but it feels like the dark ages. And here I am asking myself how much I'm going to talk about an idea of doing something with my money and saving, or am I going to be a talker or a walker, basically, right? So I'm asking myself that question after investigating and reading. And true, I did spend 2 years in DC as a high schooler, but this is as much as my extent of knowledge or first-hand experience with the US. Let's just say when I was in high school, real estate was not on my mind, right? I had other things on my mind. And eventually, after about a year and a half or two, I decide to take the plunge. And I bring my cousin, who's my partner, we grew up together, to actually bring more funds because I didn't have enough funds. And we dive into this deal together. We buy this nice, brand new from the builder, single family home in a nice Phoenix suburb for less than $130,000, just shy of $130,000, 4-2, 1,500, maybe 1,600, 2-car garage, suburb of Phoenix, nothing exciting, right? And that's my first jump into this, all done remotely, right? Sight unseen, different country, different language, different culture, different hours, different everything, right? Everything is different. But I still decide to do that. And that was my first investment. It took 45 days to get that house rented, which I was sweating like crazy, nervous, because the first investment, all remote. I'm sure everybody's taking advantage of me. Nobody did, but that's just my mind. And that was my first deal, my first introduction to US real estate. I just took the plunge. I just said, all right, I'm going to do it and not talk about it. And I think it was, looking back, very brave with all the support system that I didn't have around me. Today, Facebook group, this forum, that forum, podcast, a lot of knowledge and support out there, programs, systems, processes. I was like, someone showed me a house I had to look up where Phoenix is on the map. I knew it's somewhere in the Southwest, right? I had a vague idea. It's like over there somewhere, but I have no idea. I wasn't really familiar with it. And that's what I did. Purchased in 2002, I think closed and completed in early 2003. I did 2 small fund syndication investment around 2003, really like nothing exciting, not a lot of money. And in 2004, my wife and I decide to pack our bags and move to the States. In Israel, it's funny. We always joke that there's the best managerial system was invented in Israel. And it goes by, it will be okay. Right? That's a system in Israel. That's a cultural system, right? And when you do that, people are like, what are you going to do? How are you going to? I don't know. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. That was my philosophy. I went with the engineering idea of it'll be okay, this concept, moved to the States, and actually started working more towards, with a clear goal. I wanted to do real estate. I didn't even think about any other option. So I started working and helping continued investing slowly and helping others do the same, investing in different parts of the country. I moved to the San Francisco Bay Area in 2004, and all the investments that we did at the time were all done in other states. So I've never actually invested in California. It was always in the greater Phoenix, Tampa, Orlando, Oklahoma City. The list goes to more than probably 35, 40 different US metros over the past 20 years. So that's what led me or brought me in a nutshell to even, considering real estate and in a different country, and in a different culture, in a different everything.
Man, that had to, so I don't know if you know this or not. I'm also an engineer, or I was in the past. And so I understand the analytical side of your brain you probably have going on, plus the culture of, it'll be okay. I'm sure you had some conflicting views going through your mind as you're trying to buy a piece of property from however many tens of thousands of miles away. That's
Yeah.
incredible. And you moved to the States in 2004, and you clearly kept working and investing in real estate. And this is before you have the company you have today. Tell me about your 2008 story. You keep investing, you keep growing. And then we get to the year 2008 when a little thing called the Great Recession happens.
Yes.
And I love having my guests who have lived through that and were in real estate in any capacity. I love hearing that story because every time I hear one, they're all different. We
Yeah.
all have different stories from back then. And there's always something to be guarded and learn from it. So, how did it go for you? And then we'll get into the
Yeah.
present day stuff.
So the leading philosophy in this few years leading to the crash was very much real estate is going up. Let's leverage as much as possible. Who cares about negative cash flow when you're making an income and the income will offset your cash flow? And buy as many as you can. So 5% down, 10% down, 80, 20, 20, if anybody even remembers that. Different programs available at the time. By the way, similar interest rates to what we're seeing right now. Buy as many as you can. Don't worry about the negative cash flow. You're making money. Your money from your job, whatever that job is gonna cover those $200, $300, $400 a month per property, which accumulates to a lot of money when you're accumulating a lot of properties. And let's just enjoy the write-up of the appreciation, right? Not so much. Let me put it this way. So when the crash came, I was over leveraged, super leveraged. My income was real estate related and it dropped dramatically. So all of a sudden, I was not able to carry all those negative cash flows and I had to let some of those houses go. I made a very clear business decision, which one I'm keeping and fighting over, which one I'm letting go. And I'm just wiping it, kind of somewhat wiping it as much as I can, understanding there's tons of consequences. Also realizing a lot of people don't remember that, but the attitude of people, culturally, people like foreclosure was a bad word. You're like, foreclosure, oh my God. It was like a negative connotation. People were devastated. And the crash of 2008, a lot of people ended up in foreclosures. That was like, not everybody, right? A lot of people, that was so common. All of a sudden, it was no longer a negative connotation. It was no longer, oh my God, like a bad, like a stigma, right? That became more of a norm. So I did let few properties go, those that I just couldn't carry. I didn't let everything go. I have to say that for some reason, and that's something that have been a pattern in my 20 plus years of operating, I have a knack to identify what's happening early on or to come to the realization, internalize where we're heading and make decisions accordingly. So very early on in the crash, into the crash, I'm like, okay, Danny, you're in trouble. Here's the trouble. Start making decision according to this. And I didn't even realize, first of all, I have no idea why I was able to actually internalize it so early. But the reason that I internalized it and admitted it to myself and made decisions such as letting some properties go as early as possible turned out to be a very good decision, because I have seen other people that were fighting over because of the stigma, not because of a business decision, because of the stigma, right? And because of the stigma, they carried another year and a half those houses, only then ending up in a year later in a foreclosure. And guess what? What I had started foreclosure was a year plus earlier. That means I started the recovery out of that situation sooner. So I had an advantage of a year plus, not to mention all the additional funds they put into that property fighting over it. They lost those funds, so to speak. So I'm not judging in any way. I'm just saying I was lucky to understand where we're heading. And I was lucky in my mind to jump into that not so pleasant situation. And also later on, I realized I came out of that situation of those multiple years. Now they always used to say 7 years recovery after foreclosure, because it was such a widespread phenomenon. 2 years, someone who had the foreclosure 2 years during that period, the bank was like that time. Like I remember 2 years, 3 years later, don't worry, we don't care. You had that foreclosure. That's in the past. What's going on with you right now? It's like a scrap, like a blank slate. But still, that was smart or good to realize not to lose the additional funds and to start that recovery from foreclosure process. So one thing that happened, foreclosures, that did happen. personally. The second thing that happened, or what I decided to do, I remember very clear with myself, because my exposure was both personal, but also was with my clients. So my clients were going through the similar situation, and many of them, not one or two, in the dozens, many dozens. And I made like a promise, a pact with myself. I said, as long as we are in this situation, anyone that calls, anyone, I'm going to pick up the phone, answer, speak, let them vent out, let them put the blame on me if needed, because people are looking for someone to blame. They actually did it, but I was expecting that frustration to be directed towards someone. I said, I'll take it. I can take those things. But more importantly, I wanted them to know that, first of all, I'm there for them as much as I can. I don't always have the solution, but sometimes just to having someone to discuss, to brainstorm, to vent, that helps, right? Also to show them that I didn't disappear. Like I saw so many people before the crash disappeared, very, like operators, salespeople, unpleasant, let's just say, unpleasant, they just disappeared. Most of them didn't even come back. Some did, unfortunately, but they did. So I said, I'm going to be here. I'm going to, at least for my clients. And I also said to myself, anyone that's going through what I'm going through, maybe I can share something that I've learned with him so he or she can benefit from it. B, maybe they are doing something that I can benefit from them in return. So that was something that all through 2008, 9, 10, 11, and that's around probably 10 and 11, those negative calls starts dying down and disappearing. And naturally, I was there. So that was another thing I took upon myself. And I have to tell you, Chad, I came in with experience into the crash, not a tons of experience. I was maybe 4 years or so as an investor. I had multiple properties myself only for 2, 3, 4 years and some clients. So I did have some experience, but not extensive one. And if I look back, the crash of 2008 was either I call it, I'm a survivor, or actually I'm a beneficiary. Because I feel like to myself, I feel like I came in with experience and I came out with a PhD in real estate. That's truly what happened in the crash. And right after the crash, I took my business and say, I'm stripping everything down and rebuilding it from scratch. How we go about analyzing properties from before and now, it's probably 30 times better. The evaluation, the analysis, the quality, tremendously better. Sometimes I'm asking myself, how did you even make decision back then without the tools that you've put in place today? I feel, crazy about it. More conservative, right? No over leverage. I tell my clients, get 25% down, 30% down. You don't need to buy 10 houses, buy 5 instead of 10. It's okay to be more stable and let the properties be as independent as possible off of you, right? So that's another thing that was changed. How we go about evaluating properties, finding up markets, finding out teams, everything is very systemized. There's like almost a checklist to everything that we do. When I interview a person, there's a checklist. When I interview a property manager, like a realtor, a certain checklist, a property manager, and a different checklist. How do we vet those resources? A whole different checklist, right? So all those things became very system and process organized well. And the goal is, how can I take, my philosophy has been, how can I take this negative situation in my life, learn from it, and not gonna dive down or put down by it, but actually embrace it and say, okay, let me learn, let me benefit, let me do better, and let let my clients benefit from that experience as well. So I want to I keep tapping into that terrible period. Listen, it's fun to talk about it. What is it? Almost 15 years later or so. That was far from being fun at the time, right? Now it's easy and a light talk. That was no fun. Stressful, unpleasant, unknown. People were meeting me in like social occasions, like, so what do you do? Oh, I'm a real estate investor. Oh. Those were the looks, right? People were like, envy before the 2008 crash. Oh, you're in real estate. That's so exciting. Like, almost we feel so sorry for you. I kid you not. So I just made it like I decided with myself, I'm going to tap into that bad era experience and I'm going to bring it forward in a way. Let's not repeat that. Let's make sure my clients do not make those mistakes and benefit moving forward. And it's been working. knock on wood, very well for the past, what is almost 15 years. So let's just say from 2010, when I started going into the recovery mode, truly going up, recovering from that era, not just, the 2009, 8, 9, and 10-ish were more like catching my breath and trying to recover and dealing with all those issues. And then 2010, all right, let's just see how we push it forward and make sure we're benefiting. If we've already been through that, let's benefit personally. Let's enable others to benefit from that as well.
This episode is brought to you by Agora's investment management solution. Are you a GP or syndicator still using spreadsheets or an outdated investment management platform? Advance to Agora, the next step in investment management evolution. Agora's customers raise capital 40% faster and reduce operational expenses by 25%. With Agora, you can collect commitments faster, raise more capital by creating beautifully designed data rooms, public brochures, and automated subscription flows. Manage all your investor relationships efficiently with the most advanced investor CRM on the market. Delight your investors with a beautifully designed investor portal, which is fully customized to fit your brand and integrates seamlessly into your website. Distribute payments in a click directly from the platform and automatically generate and send all the reports and statements your investors need. Agora is suited for all types and all sizes of GPs or syndicators, starting with an affordable $5.99 a month subscription plan. Click the link in the description to book a live demo and learn what Agora can do for your business. Agora, better investment management.
Yeah, that's fantastic lessons there. And what the main themes that I heard were leverage, right? So this was a story where there were opportunities to be super highly leveraged. And folks, said another way, when he says 95% loan to value or 70% loan to value or 25% down, think of it this way. If you're getting 70% from a lender, then the value of that property has to go down 30% before that loan is worth more than the property is. You do not want the property worth less than the loan on the property. That's very bad. And it's also bad. You mentioned negative cash flow. I can't even fathom negative cash flow. And the reason that is because we all know stories from back in the day, right? You didn't know that back in the day when everything went up and it was okay because a year later you had gained 100,000 on your value and you were fine. So it was a very different world. But folks, so think of it this way. The other part he mentioned is, look, life is not to you, it's for you. Okay. When there is struggle and there is strife and there is pain, there's growth happening. Okay. So you can choose to hide in your hole. And look, I know there's tough times going on right now for some of you out there. You can go hide in your hole and just say, why me? Woe is me, Lord. But look at it as a growth opportunity, because what Dani is saying, he got a PhD or what feels like a PhD in practical application investing, going through some of what can go wrong. It's real easy to see the guns and roses, but you don't always see the thorns until they're too late. So embrace being stuck by the thorn, learn from it. And the other thing I heard you say that's interesting, and I hadn't really thought about it this way, is try to work on your ability to make business decisions, not emotional decisions. Because, for example, emotionally, a lot of people held on to their properties probably a lot longer than they should had they known what was coming. Whereas you made a business decision and were able to start the recovery process earlier. And so there's something to that. I would never encourage you to just back away from a project. There is what I hope you heard there is make business decisions, not emotional decisions, folks. And so, Dani, taking this to the next step here, I'm really excited for where we're about to go here, because we have two more areas we're going to touch before this episode is over. One, we just talked about your experience in depth in the Great Recession. Depending who you ask, me included, I think we are in a recession today. I know we are because I feel it on the ground. I own a lot of property and things are not as easy as they once were. Okay. So from your perspective, where are we today? Is this a carbon copy of what happened in 2008, or is this completely different? And what are your thoughts?
So I'm not sharing the exact same observation as you, that we are in a recession. I was actually listening just this week for some economical overview, not related to just a general economic overview, not related specifically to real estate, and then something Zillow put together about more specific about real estate. There are also, it's just always nice to see that jumping on a random, not random per se, but just not someone, not looking to hear what your thoughts are. It's always more pleasure to hear someone who's like, oh, interesting.
That's
I have
right.
the same thought as well. So I'm not in the same, in generally speaking, I don't think we are in the same specific recession situation. However, there is an asterisk here. What I'm seeing, because I'm operating, I have the luxury of operating in multiple US metros and consistently making offers, buying houses, renting at the same time at 6, 7, 8, maybe even 9 at the moment. I can tell if you look at, I know you're in Texas, right? Can you remind me which part of Texas?
A couple of my partners are in Texas. I'm actually in Tennessee, but we do operate
in Tennessee.
in San Antonio and Houston, Nashville. Yep.
Okay. So I'm very big in Middle Tennessee, no longer just Nashville. Mm-hmm. I'm very big. We do a lot of activity in the whole through between Chattanooga and Clarksville.
As do we. It's a great market.
Yep. Yeah. A lot of it is greater Nashville. But I will tell you that in the past year and a half, we phased out almost completely out of the DFW and Houston areas. The reasons are those areas are going through some corrections and slowing down. So they're behaving very differently from Middle Tennessee. Let's just call it Greater Nashville, very differently. So what I'm trying to say is we can give an answer here and we can debate more on a philosophical level. But I think that my suggestion to everybody who's thinking of what doing, take it down a notch. For me, it's not about a philosophical decision because I have not stopped buying houses for 20 years, whatever the economy did. Even during the 2008 recession, we were still looking for opportunities. I was recovering, but I was still helping clients buy at the same time, looking for those opportunities. So it's all about finding the opportunities. What is the market offering you? Maybe there are not so opportunities in Texas right now, but in Middle Tennessee, there are, vice versa. So it's taking down the conversation a notch is more like, all right, maybe I'm an investor. Let's just say I'm an investor, whether I'm a beginner or experienced. Instead of trying to determine what the economy will do, how about we take a look at those two properties? This is in Middle Tennessee. This is in Arlington, Texas, which is right next to Dallas, right? Let's evaluate them on their own merits, on their own ability. And then if I have I'm very concerned about the local economy, I'll say, you know what? This one is asking, the market value is 300. They're asking 295 or 290. How about I'll try to buy it for 280? I'm already hedging a little bit, right? If the market goes down. If I'm very concerned and the house has been sitting for a long time on the market, maybe I'll try to pick it for 270 if I can, right? In Dallas, I'll probably be more successful because what the economy is doing locally. It's not crashing, but it's slowing. It's slower. In mid 300,000 house that is offered 295, you'll maybe get it for 290. That'll be assuming everything is fine and not that this is a rundown, horrible house. So what I'm trying to say is we could take that conversation to a pragmatic level and evaluate, first of all, the two properties regardless to what the economy is doing, first of all. And if it passes our evaluation, our analysis, then we can bring in and say, you know what, I am so concerned about the local economy. Let me hedge myself a little bit, more and offer a lower price. Obviously, in your neck of the woods, properties are not more. A lot of properties in that price range do not sit, for a lengthy period of time on the market. Good ones, okay ones. If they're priced well and in their okay shape, not even amazing shape. On the other hand, in Dallas, they're maybe sitting a little bit longer. I think they're also coming out of that slowdown period. It's hard to just generalize the economy. I think it needs to be more of a local discussion, like what's happening in Middle Tennessee versus Texas. And then even more, here are those opportunities. Let's evaluate them specifically. And then maybe hedge a little bit extra if we feel concerned about the economy. And I want to tell you one last thing, and I'll hand it over to you. My secret sauce, if I can share it, is two things, right? Buy quality property, keep it for long-term being 7, ideally 10 years or more. So if you're doing those two things, quality long-term, so simple, but people get lost for some reason with those two things. Quality long-term, you're inherently hedging against the economical trends, right? Quality will probably keep up its value, even if it goes up and down over time, right? Quality. Long-term is inherently surviving the different cycles, right? Very simple to think about. Still, people are always attracted, or investors many times attracted to the not necessarily quality, more like crappy properties, and maybe getting out of the situation when things are not going according to the plan, instead of holding it long term. So that will be my kind of really inherently how to hedge instead of trying to time the market and find a solution and what it's doing, just quality and long term.
I like some of the sentiments you mentioned there, Danny. I think it is an opinion of whether we're in a recession or not. It depends how you look at the data, and it is localized. You're right, because the real estate, people blend together all of our real estate markets and give you national averages, but they don't mean shit if you're buying things locally, right? You're not buying a U.S. house, you're buying a Tennessee house or a national house. So you have to remember that, folks. And look, this is being described as a wealthy person's recession right now, because if you look at the data, GDP growth is still positive. Job growth is still positive. It's moderated. And that's been what the Fed has been trying to do by quantitative tightening and interest rate increases to squash inflation. So let's just put that to the side for a second. But what you're mentioning here is focus on quality assets, right? Because, and there's a lot of people who will chase yield and say, I can buy this asset for cheaper. Yeah, it's 50 years old, right? And if you haven't seen this already, there was a time recently, I'm in the apartment space, right? There was a time recently where I could buy 70s built asset for a similar cap rate, that's income ratio to price or net income ratio to price, as I could a new build. It was like, well, wait a minute. If I have to pay a 4.5 cap rate for something, why would I not buy a 90s asset or a 2000s asset that's in a good location rather than a 68 build that's in a rough location? Because here's what I'm going to tell you, and this has already happened. If you have that asset, if you have either one of those assets today and you're trying to sell it today, you're not getting a lot of attention, or you're getting pretty low price per door on that lower quality asset, but the higher quality asset still seems to be very attractive to people. And so similar thing in the single family world is focus on the quality of the asset, focus on holding it for the long term, and position yourself that way, because then you're not getting yourself in a situation where you might have a loan coming due at a bad time, right? But you've also held it for long enough by the time you get there that you probably have enough appreciation despite whatever ups and downs there are along the way to get there. So I love the thought process. And I guess from your opinion then, Danny, you don't really, and before I ask that, you're always buying real estate. We're always buying real estate. The strategy may change a little bit depending what phase of the market cycle you're in. But especially think about it, despite having some pain that you went through in 2008, 2009, 2010, if you had more money, you probably, looking back, you would have bought as many assets as you could have in that downtime, wouldn't you?
I listened to one of the other episodes and one of the guys was talking about it. And I want to tell you a true short story. So this is 2011 or 12, 11, I think 11. I'm having a conversation with myself, maybe 2000, maybe 2010. I'm having a conversation, a real conversation with I remember where it took place. I was just walking and having this conversation. And I tell myself, Danny, when you in 2013 and 14, ask yourself, why didn't you buy more properties in 2009, 10, 11? Remind yourself, you bought as many as you could at the time, okay? So I was having a conversation with my future self to remind myself a mental note in Chad, 2013 came, that question came up, and then I reminded myself of that conversation from 2010 or 11 of just reminding. So I know, that other guy talked about how to raise funds. That's a whole different conversation. I was not looking to raise funds, but I did buy as much as I can at the time. So, and reminded myself that, and remember that. Right. And I still feel sorry that I didn't buy more, although it maybe was very challenging.
It wasn't for lack of trying, though, was it?
There was no doubt.
Yes. I guess the mindset to put there, folks, is I think Warren Buffett says it very well. Charlie Munger does as well. Be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. And the reason is, look, if assets are getting foreclosed on or if people are having to sell properties in distressed situations, if loans are coming due and forcing transactions, there's probably going to be some good quality real estate available for the taking. And the challenge is, if you have courage and capital in times of strife, you're going to do well. So stick to that formula. Let's go to the last little part of the section here. And Danny, I want you to now tell the listeners, especially those of you who are out there who are interested in single family investing, Tell them about what you do now with your experience, what your company does, and how with the Simply Do It platform, you help your clients
Yeah.
not make the same mistakes you did.
Yeah. We set up system and processes of identifying good real estate markets around the country, setting up local realtors, vetting them, training them how to analyze properties, how to work with investors, what is an acceptable property, what is not an acceptable property, how to present it to a buyer investor in the correct, realistic way, not optimistic, not pessimistic, realistic way. We have an extensive, not extensive, but really robust Excel that we use. I think between all the clients, realtors, myself, probably analyze 60, 70, 80,000 properties over the years with that one Excel. So we put a lot of emphasis on calibrating expectations for the clients, picking the right market, putting systems and processes to support the transaction. And then when someone comes to us, usually someone comes to us, most of our clients are coming either from, a lot from Israel, but most of them from the West Coast. They understand that real estate is expensive in their backyard. They understand the benefits of real estate. And they're coming to us and say, listen, I want to invest. I live in a very expensive area. Rent here is super cheap relatively to the price point. I know out of state. I've heard about it. It's no secret anymore. Where do I buy? How do I buy? Who can support me? How do I analyze? What to buy? Who can I trust? Who will manage it? Who will help me after when I buy it, when I have problems with the property manager to take care of those problems? That's exactly where we come in. It's the educational bucket to help with answers on concerns and questions and so on, to formalize it and so they can start the search, and then supporting them before they start buying, while they're reviewing properties and trying to determine which one to put an offer on, through the contract phase, the transaction phase of under contract to closing, with everything that comes through. And then we tell them, listen, we're going to be here to support and continue to support you after you close for years. There's a little questions here. There's a miscommunication there. There's something you're not sure about there. There's a way I can tell you how to improve maybe 3 years after you purchase, a few things I can tweak to help you do better. That's exactly what we're here for. If you're successful, it's very simple formula. You'll come back for more. You'll tell your friends and family. When you're ready to sell 5, 6, 7, 10 years later, you'll call us to see what's the best way to maximize it. Maybe 1031 exchange it. So it's a full cycle with a very lengthy support period after the closing. So we don't tell anybody goodbye after they purchase. And, theoretically, we're not obligated. We are obligated because they'll come back for more. They'll bring their friends. So that's how we go about the full 360 support, not of the transaction, but of the holding of the property. From really early start to after selling it and how to exit properly or move on, to another property or not, depending what they want to do.
That's the best way to do business. When you get people to become raving fans, they come back and they tell their friends. I love that. And folks, listen to the end of the episode, and we're going to talk about how you can get in touch with Dani and his team to see if you too can be a part of that group and if it's right for you. So Dani, let's jump into the Quattro questions real quick before we end the episode. First one, what is your superpower? Could be life or business. And how does it serve you?
Yeah, I think my superpower, and I had someone else tell me that. So I didn't even think about it.
That's validation.
Yes, validation. I had the mirror put into me, and it was just so true. I'm very good with challenging the status quo. So it's not about yes or no. It's about, okay, it's not to go about it this way, how we can go about it a little bit differently. I've been challenging the status quo throughout my life without realizing I'm doing it, until someone 2 years ago said, you haven't put it straightforward in front of me.
I love that.
Yeah.
So let's flip it to the other side of the coin then. What's your biggest failure? We talked about some of them, so you may have already told us. But what's your biggest failure in life or business, and what did you learn from it?
I'll tell you that while the period of the crash of 2008 was very impactful, I had through the 2012 through 2018, I branched out to do some flipping properties remotely as well, duplicating what I was doing with the rentals into the flipping. I've done about 90 flips remotely. Most of them were very good to excellent. Quite a few were just okay, nothing exciting, from break even to little profit. And the last 10 were catastrophic on a catastrophic way. And they impacted my life, the quality of my life, my health, my family in a way, my finances. That was the biggest business blow that I had. It took me about 2.5 years to get out of that big hole and getting things done and taking care of it. I lost hours of sleep, hours of working without compensation just to do the right things by my clients. Lost a lot of my own money that I've built in the previous years. So for me, remote flipping is something that I've done a lot. So that literally buying at the auction or buying wholesalers, whatever, renovating it, dealing with GCs and subs and all of that, getting it all the way to the completion. That's what I mean by flipping. I know most people know the fix and flip concept. And that's it. No more. It was devastating. At the end, it was devastating. At the beginning, it was, so I learned a lot and I just decided I don't want to deal with that anymore. There's so much hustle, trouble, annoying. Quality of people is the worst in that category. Not everybody. It's almost impossible to find somewhat honest GC. It's like I met one. I worked with 60. I have one guy that was an honest, did what he said, what he did. He didn't go the extra mile, but everything was just according to what he said. That was amazing. For someone to do exactly what they're saying, wow, unheard of.
Yeah, I love that. I hear you're only as good as your last flip, which is what one can endure.
Then as a flipper, I'm terrible.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's flip it over to the philanthropy question. Here at Quattro, philanthropy is true to our being. It's one of our 4 core pillars. And so I love to give my guests an opportunity to just talk about your philanthropic heart. Where do you give your time, talents, and treasures?
Yeah.
And we may even have that as a link for you in the show notes, folks.
Give, donate here and there, nothing scattered over different organizations, nothing very actively as a philanthropic mission, but we do our share, my wife and I, just to give back. But I will tell you, there's an unofficial philanthropic side of me. And I always told myself, if someone reaches out and they're in trouble, real estate wise, right? And they're on the ground getting kicked and they just need someone someone with experience and knowledge, a lot of experience and knowledge, reach out and help them get out of their situation. I've done it many times. People reach out. Sometimes it's easy with just making the right connection. Sometimes it's easy just having a conversation to put things in perspective and show them there is a light at the end of the tunnel and you can already see it. And following up with that. I've done it many times, and that's my vlog. That's me giving back to the real estate world. When someone is on the ground,
yes,
I'm going to reach out. I'm going to try. And if someone is listening and they're on the ground, I don't know if I can solve. You're welcome. No charge, no nothing. This is just helping someone out in a bad spot. I want to be able to do that. I've done that.
I love that. And sometimes that hand up can be the best thing that person has ever felt. So last question. This one's really hard. What's the best way to get in contact with you and your company so these guys might be able to reach out?
Let me think about it for a moment or two. That's a tough one. So simply put, my web identity is Simply Do It. My company is called Simply Do It. Our website is simplydoit.net. So anywhere you put online, Simply Do It Real Estate, Simply Do It Dani, that will lead to our Facebook, our different social media, back to our website very easily. So it's easier to remember that, I think, than just my name and definitely my last name, which is not easy. So Simply Do It is our web identity, our social identity online.
Awesome. Dani, thank you for coming on the show. This has been huge value just to get to walk your history with you and talk about how you're using your history and you're using your knowledge and your PhD that you obtained to help others just at least not make the same mistakes, because folks, success leaves clues. So reach out to Dani. Dani, love to have you on the show again in the future. I appreciate you coming on, brother.
Thank you very much. Pleasure, truly.
Want to generate higher return and drive alpha for your commercial real estate firm? Now you can with Lobby CRE by 30 Capital. Lobby CRE is an asset management platform designed to manage and optimize cash flow for faster returns and more visibility into performance. Shift your strategy with the market, not because of it. Identify opportunities and mitigate risk now rather than later, and save more than 8 hours per week through automation. Click the link in the show notes to learn more and book a demo.
Well, folks, I hope you got as much out of that episode as I did. I love having people, industry veterans who have really lived through tough times and come out on the other side and have lessons to share. And further, who have built systems that you can benefit from as well by listening to them. So what a great day we're living in the podcast world. If you got any value out of the show, folks, please like, subscribe, 5-star review, thoughtful comment, whatever platform you're on, just interact with the show. That's the only way we get to rank and get to more people just like you. Hit that share button, send it to a buddy, pay it forward. All right. If you want to check us out and be on the show, hit us up at thequattroway.com/podcast to apply. We'd love to have you on, folks. This has been another episode of the Real Estate Runway podcast. Until next time, over and out.
We hope this episode was insightful and brought value to your day. If so, please be awesome and leave us a 5-star review. Find out how Team Quattro can help you at thequattroway.com. Until next time, this is the Real Estate Runway podcast.